All right. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. The floor will be open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? I second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Mrs. DeGraw, did we have any public comment forms? No, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. We will move right into teacher negotiations.
Okay, just wanted to report to the school board that we were able to meet with the West Jefferson Teachers Association, and we did come to an agreement on the master agreement for the 2021-2022 school year, along with the salary schedule. And so I will just highlight a few things here on the master agreement. As I met with Mr. Hall and Ms. Coleman, and they were able to go back to the association and talk with them. So a few of the changes, and I'll just highlight those. Most everything is going to be the same, with the exception of some wording here and there. But let me get to the. We added one definition for bereavement to allow for nieces and nephews to be just included in there, just to clarify that for the bereavement leave. Our insurance is not changing as it was locked in with the other one, so that was not anything that we had to visit with the board about with any changes. The section on work hours. This is one where last year was a work day was 7 hours and 50 minutes. It is changed to an 8-hour day. And what we did is we took the contract year on number 2 from 182 to 178. And so that was just a trade-off with them. And that will allow us to have more consistency. The 8-hour workday just fits a little bit nicer into the schedule. And so the teachers were grateful for that. That 8-hour day is going to be determined by each school. And so the administration, the principal will be able to say, I want you here at this time to that time. Any exceptions to that, teachers will just need to visit with their administrator and make sure they have approval with that. Like I said, the Article 9 does talk about the salary schedule. We will go to that in just a minute. It was proposed, but tabled to discuss the reduction in force procedures. In our next policy update, the reduction in force policy will come up, but because it is already in the teacher master agreement, that opens it up to have feedback to be negotiated through the association. And so that was one thing that I was hoping to have some suggestions that would align it more carefully with what the policy would be going. But just with not enough time, this is going to be one thing that we'll revisit this year. So as we start addressing this policy renewal with the school board, I'll open that back up with the association so they can give us feedback on the reduction in force. At the end of the day, when I presented it, it's not really the exact details in here that I'm concerned. I just want something that's clear and concise that both sides are aware of. So that was presented, but it was tabled. So the reduction in force will be the exact same wording, even though some of it is out of date. But that's what that we were at. The last part of any of the changes was just some clarification on travel reimbursement about whether a district card's available or who would be able to be eligible to get mileage reimbursement for professional development or business district or district business. I just went backwards on that one. So that's all I have on that. The salary schedule is aligned with what the state career ladder salary allocation is. Our salary schedule at West Jefferson does utilize our supplemental levy. And so this is a promise that we made to the voters as we increased our supplemental levy, that this is getting passed on directly, and it's shown right here in our salary schedule that we do pay above what the state career allocation is. And a lot of our teachers were able to get a significant increase, and they're very grateful for that. So this went through. The grandfathered areas are just for staff members who we didn't want to decrease it. They were grandfathered in, and as the explanation says, their grandfather status will remain frozen until the career ladder exceeds their current placement. So this is what the proposal is for teacher negotiations, and we will just need to have a motion to accept teacher negotiations and the salary schedule for the 2021 school year for teachers. Are there any questions that the board members have for me?
Or be open for, if you want to knock out both of those with one motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve teacher negotiations and the salary schedule for the 2021-22 school year.
And I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those two motions, that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to the superintendent contract.
Oh, 3.2, Madam Chair. We do have some other classified salaries on that 3 on that one.
Oh, I don't have that.
It's on the back.
No,
Oh.
it's so teacher negotiations is just the one, and then salary schedules. This, as you're looking there, we have a salary schedule for just the certified, and then this one here has the teachers classified in administration.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Okay.
sorry about that confusion.
No. Okay.
So the 3.2 salary schedules, it does include the teachers in this as well on the first one, just because it's all together. Thought it'd make it easy for people that were looking for these proposed schedules. And so 2 years ago, when we were told that salaries were frozen, we kept everybody as is. And I did in your handouts, I don't have attached yet to the district, but you can see that the paraprofessional one on the left-hand side, we went up by 40 cents, which would be 2 steps on the increase from the state. The state did give a 2% on the base increase overall. The goal for this was to try to be more competitive, getting closer to the $10 minimum amount, so we can compete more with our local businesses for these positions. And so everybody on this first rung will have a 40-cent increase. In the previous one, there was only a secretary position. And in this proposed one that I have here in front of you, that it splits it up a little bit, that there's going to be an office support and a paramedicaid spot. These are individuals in roles that have paperwork involved, but they're not an administrative assistant. They're not a building secretary. And so the philosophy behind this is that these individuals will have a little bit more of an increase on that compared to the paraprofessional rung on the left, far left. The lunchroom supervisor, and I just tried to go in order from the lowest to the top, was just to get an increase, to try to get this one more competitive for that position, because it's a supervisor role. And then the administrative assistant one is a new one that I have on there that would be for our building secretaries, administrative assistant. I feel that their role is way, I don't want to say more important, but it takes so much more energy and work when you see everything that they do. And so we wanted to start the administrative assistant step 1 off at the same level that the para ends up at. So it really will be an increase for some of our secretaries for this next year, but it's also, I think, one of the hardest jobs in the school district, and our administrative assistants are doing an amazing job. So that's where this will go. Our bus drivers, last year, or the last time we had it, was $12.17 for the entry level, and we wanted to bump that up to $14 as an entry level to go. And so really it's almost $1.50 increase across for most of our drivers, sometimes up to a $2 one, just to be more competitive. We had some trouble trying to convince some of our activity drivers to come, because they said, well, I can go take a job driving truck for this route and I'm gonna get paid this much money. This will hopefully help us get a little bit more competitive with that. And as bus drivers are hard to fill. Our maintenance and technology was increased similar to what the paraprofessional, and then the bus supervisor, it didn't make sense to start the bus supervisor off lower than what a bus driver could make, and so we just started that schedule off. As we looked at this one and with these other proposals going forward, our administration has not had a salary schedule. It was just negotiated initially, but this is something that as a superintendent, I want to have in place for our administrators. And so you can see that this proposed administrative schedule has the contract days for elementary and junior high principals, 198 days. The high school principal is 203 days. That allows them to start approximately the 1st of August, and then to come in for a week and a half after school, and then have 3 flex days throughout the summer where they can come in and just make sure that bills are signed and other things. So step one would be somebody coming in initially. They would have that. A junior high principal and a high school principal would be eligible for the high school activity stipend on top of that. And so after the completion of year 1 for the salary for the administrators, a 1.5% longevity and goal completion bonus will be put on that, and that would be based on the base salary pay. And so it's roughly another $1,000 each year. The hope is that this will be able to encourage individuals to want to stay. And it's difficult in a small district to be able to be 100% competitive with the bigger districts and what they can offer, but this will allow for some growth over time in our district for administrators.
How's that longevity paid?
How is it paid? And so if they, on completion of the school year and completion of the goals, the principals will have a professional learning plan, just like the teachers have, with goals set up. And when they reach those goals and have their final evaluation with the superintendent, we'll be able to verify that they have that, and that will just be added on to their salary.
So it's a one lump sum.
It could be either one lump sum or just paid out over 12 months.
Oh, for the next year?
Yeah, for the next year.
Oh.
So it just increases that. The final one is just the exempt salary. This would be our maintenance supervisor, business manager, and specialist. This is what the proposed salary would be for them. This is a $2,000 increase from 2 years ago, whereas everyone was frozen. Putting that, all 3 of these individuals, are near retirement and at the top of the pay scale for this. This isn't one area that we may come in with a pay scale schedule like I created for the administrators, but at this time, probably not until after these individuals are retired on that. So we're excited about that. I know Mrs. DeGraw and Mrs. Bingham and I, with the teacher increases and the last 2 years, we were told that everything was frozen and then it wasn't. And we've had these discussions. We've ran our numbers. These proposals are well within our budget, and we're very excited to be able to offer this and pass it on. And so just wanted to make sure that I presented it to the board. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns on this?
On the classified salary schedule?
Yes.
Office support, are those people that work as assistants in the offices?
So an office support would be someone like right now that does some type of clerical thing, whether it's taking care of IDLA
I
classes.
see. Okay, not working with students.
No,
Okay.
it's just a little bit more above and beyond, whether they're doing attendance or some type
Oh, I
of
see.
reporting, helping fill in at the office at times when the secretary or admin assistant is gone.
Okay.
I know this is something where I've had people come up and say, when are you gonna be able to help? You'll be able to reach out to some of your constituents that work for the district and say, you know what, we're doing our best to try to help be competitive.
Looks like a good salary schedule.
As soon as they reach that level,
Then it's a
they're
percentage.
frozen.
They pretty much are frozen on the 14th unless there's an increase over on the base, and that still could happen on that where this
Get a
last,
percentage, don't they?
they could get a percentage or for example, if it's another 2% on the base, maybe next year if it went to, for example, on the first one to 10.20, we would just bump everybody up 20 cents all the way through. So that's, whereas people that are on the step and lane, they get the year and the increase. And so
Right,
until they get to the end.
Right.
okay. You go back to your agenda, there we go.
Yep. So the classified administration and exempt salaries will be the ones that will.
Okay. So the floor will be open for a motion to approve the salary schedule for the teachers, classified and administration, and the exempt.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the teacher salary schedule, the classified salary schedule, and the exempt salary schedule, the exempt employees salary schedule.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now we need to let the community know that we have approved the superintendent contract for the school year of 2021, 2022. And the floor would be open for a motion to approve that contract.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the superintendent contract for the 21-22 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, and
Personnel.
personnel, we have students. What do you call them?
First off, I think if you, Madam Chair, if you do personnel for the new hires, just to approve the hires for personnel, and then we can have 3.5 be the graduation appeal for student B.
Okay. Sorry. Student B. Do we need to do student
No.
C?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, the floor will be open for a motion to approve the new hires. Is
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve all the new hires.
there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. And the floor will be open for a motion regarding student B on their graduation appeal.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the graduation appeal for student B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, those in favor of approving the graduation appeal for student B?
Aye.
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 Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, super.
Madam Chair, if you could excuse Mrs. Rigby at this time.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I will see you next week.
And graduation requirements.
So just for discussion, we do have, well, 4.1, we do have our bond and election discussion.
Sorry.
So I don't know where. I don't have that one. This is the same from last time. This is where we're at with the bond and levies. Next week, for us to be able to be ready for an August election, we will need to have a resolution that's put into place, and I'm working on that right now with our bond attorney. The trickiest part with this again is this process where we've gone looking at new projects to remodels. There's still going to be some unknown with the increased costs of even the roofing materials and everything else that we're gonna get. So right now, our current proposal is to go for 1.5 million on a 5-year bond, which would have an impact of $98 with the new levy rate at 3.35. If we remember that our 10-year average for the last 10 years was $3.50. So that's still well below what we've done in the last 10 years. The projects and such are going to be ones that that haven't changed as I've talked with Mr. Soderquist. You know, the high school gym is still on there. The roofing projects are ones that really jump out. Auditorium. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to get all of this done, even with 1.5.
Yeah, because of all the increases in cost.
With increases in costs, and one that we haven't talked a lot about, but it's because our track has come up to a point where our track needs to be redone. And our field turf may last for 2 or 3 more years on top of that. But then begs the question, do you come in and replace a track just so 3 years later you can come in and replace the field turf and bring all of that equipment over the top of it? And so I will be meeting with a field turf specialist on Monday who will be coming and looking at it just to get an idea. And maybe that's an option that we look at and say, okay, this is what we have to do. But with 1.5 million, we probably could get almost all of this that we have on these remodel projects taken care of. Would have to probably reduce safety to 200,000 instead of 300,000, and general repairs down to 150 instead of 200, and that would make it fit. The safety ones I need to talk more with Mr. Weeks, because he just threw out a really high estimate. The camera system that he was looking at is one that is a really high tech one that I think's a little bit. We don't need the Lamborghini model of cameras. We could get by with a real good quality system that's a little bit less than that. The discussion on the turf, the field turf that we have that's lasted as long as it's done out there, it was a lower end field turf when it was put in, and because our use isn't as much, it's lasted pretty good. But it also, the technology has changed a lot in the turf, and I will have some samples for us to look at as we go forward. And that's probably misspoken. I shouldn't say top quality, but one of the higher end qualities is around 533 is the quote that they gave us. And doesn't have all the black pellets. As you look at ours that we currently have, there's tons of black pellets that get all over in the kids' shoes and at home, and people think that it's some ice poop on their but the lower end field turf, that's what they have, it's more of a basic turf, and they bring in a lot of those pebbles or not pellets and fill them in. The higher end ones tend to last longer, and it comes back down to you get what you pay for on that. And so these estimates here are on higher level things that will last longer if we're taking the effort to do that. You know, when we look at the pros and cons and say, what do we do strategically? What will people go for? And I know we've talked about that, but every single one of these things are part of our facilities. They're the facilities. I don't have it here.
Where does that put us if we go up to the,
Up here.
yeah,
So
if we go to this one right here?
to that one, 1.25.
Yeah. Does that get everything done?
No,
It doesn't.
no, 1.5 would get everything done.
1.5.
But if you did a 1.5 or 1.25, it's $319, and so you're talking $16 difference per year per 100,000 just to get it there. The other thing is when we looked at roofing projects and some of the bids, we've been able to get some really good things done in the district. Our drop ceilings and all that material came in before or during spring break. Like, we wouldn't be able to get that done right now.
Yeah.
And so we've really dodged a bullet on that. The roof that is replaced at Hamer right now came in at a perfect price. They're saying now that every month add 10%. And so I still think we run for a bond because our facilities aren't magically going to go away, and they're not magically going to fix themselves. But hopefully in a year from now is when the projects will start, because it'll be voted on in August. A successful bond will allow us to go through the bond process and have those funds available next spring to be used. And there's a chance that construction costs will go down. There's a chance they'll go up. But there's no guarantee right now. But at the same time, if it keeps going up, we'll need to back off and just be able to do the ones that we can do. And that's the part that need to communicate with the board and also with the patrons when we go to vote on this. This is the amount that we're looking at, but it's really difficult to put an exact number to say, yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll do this, because this is the cost. Things may change on them. So I've gone back and forth, and I'll ask again, you know, if the field specialist, he comes in and says, you can get 5 more years out of that football field, maybe it would be worth it to redo the track and then just take our chances with replacing it over the top of a newer track. The track specialist said that they do that occasionally, but there's, you know, if you're gonna get a brand new car and paint it all up, you don't want to go in and change the transmission after that and do hood work. You know, sometimes it's and that's where you're looking at, because somebody might come out and say, you haven't been talking about field turf, why are you doing it now? Well, the track needs to be done now.
How bad is it? Is it ready to be done now? Or
Yeah,
The
you
track
said 3
Is the track at the end of its life?
The track is.
You said 3 years. Does that mean
And that's me saying that
that we're gonna eke it out?
you
That you
could, but the track needs to be done now. That's,
Yeah, the
It
track.
probably
we knew-
becomes a safety issue.
Yeah.
We
doesn't
knew
it?
that was a safety issue.
Tyson, do you want
when
to
we
just?
concrete
See, that's the
floor,
part where I don't know enough about with the field turf. To the untrained eye, you'd come out and say, hey, this looks really good. It's still green. It's, you know, there are some rips. There are some things that have with wear and tear on them.
but is it dangerous the way it is?
I'll ask the specialist on Monday if it's dangerous, you know, but again, its life expectancy is not going to be more than 5 years.
But if something traumatic does happen in the middle of our bond, in the middle of this, we don't have the money,
Then
then what?
then we would probably say, we're going to go with the track and hold off on that other one and just see what,
Oh, I'm saying if we have a large tear or something happens to our field
oh,
and we don't
Then
fix
we've
it,
got to use our carrot, our
I don't know, would
Fine,
we either have to rebond or
Mhm.
that's the thing is if we could get it all done at once, facility wise, it makes sense. Now, there's always the philosophical of some saying, oh, we hate sports. They don't, 70% of our kids play sports. That's a huge percentage. It's also something that I would say a majority of our community is proud of. They're proud to have that. And I don't want to come across by talking about both sides of the argument that I think that I have any indication that this is the wrong thing to present, because it's not. These are our facilities. These facilities need to be taken care of. Is there the potential of uncomfortable conversations with people that have a different viewpoint? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we might have a difference of opinion, but the field continues to get older every single year, and eventually it will have to be replaced. It will not be cost efficient and effective to tear it up and put grass in.
Right.
If people remember what the old football field with being able to try to water it, and that was more dangerous than others, but it also, the track is made in a way where you'd have to tear up the asphalt on the track foundation. Then you have to worry about mowing it, paying for it, fertilizing it. And right now with our maintenance department, we're already stretched as far as we can with manpower. And something like this, like a field turf, is a good investment because it limits manpower. It takes care of itself. You have 2 high school teams and 3 to 4 junior high team or elementary junior high teams that play on that. They can practice on it every single day. Whereas when I was in high school on the old field, you maybe got to practice on the actual football field once or twice a year. And then after the first 2 games, it was tore up anyway. And so the football field facility really does benefit our community, and putting in the track, you know, that's just, we could look at the lower end stuff, but I think when we see the difference with the samples, I had a chance to look at them this weekend. The lower end field turf, it doesn't have the life expectancy and of what the increased ones do.
Willie, you were here back when they did that first, weren't you? When they first put that field in, that turf.
They put it in and
And wasn't it?
what was it,
2006?
86?
I thought it was like.
No, the field turf,
2006,
the
I'm
field
pretty
turf.
sure.
It's 2005, 2006.
Was it?
Oh, yeah, that's
So-
right,
Right after.
Didn't I,
2006.
didn't I understand that was like 600,000? So why is this,
Any different?
this seems cheap to me.
And that's a good question. I didn't have a chance to go look at the exact cost of the other one, but this would
Just
be,
remembering back when they had that.
Well, I think they had to do all the land work, all the
So
land preparation.
that made a difference.
I think the turf, and when I was talking to the turf guy, he came out, it wasn't the specialist, but it was the track guy. He thinks our turf that we got was around the $300,000, the lower end one.
Okay.
And it might have been, 15 years ago, because we'll play on it this year and that will be its 15th year. It probably, it might have been 250 back then,
Because I remember that 600,000 figure bouncing around and everybody was having such a fit over it. So you're suggesting that we go with the top quality and also the complete rebuild on the track?
I would look at that. That would be the time to do. That would give us to have the opportunity to have the facilities have the potential to last the longest. Because the retop, they would come in and spray on top of the current one and add more millimeters of cushion. And you go out and look at the track, we have areas that are coming up off the complete rebuild, then take the whole thing off and do that. And if they do it at the same time, the same company could come in and do both of them. And so you'd have the same personnel working on all of it. You wouldn't have two different companies competing with time on that. And, as with all of these, we don't have to have the exact company or in mind of this is who we're going with, because we know that things will change with prices, and possibly they'll be able to, I don't know, come down a little bit from where they're at. Those are,
I'll be honest, I'm nervous to take away from the safety bracket of that.
mhm.
And if we've gotten 15 years out of the lower end stuff, then I am very hopeful that that expert will come out on Monday and say, if you go with this top end, you'll get 30.
I mean,
And maybe that's
we
excessive,
might.
but,
Twice the money now.
right?
It is. I think we might. Like
Twice the money.
as I was looking at the
I want twice
samples,
the time.
there is one that's more expensive than this one. It's the professional grade.
That's more like carpeting.
Like
isn't it?
NFL.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
It's like
well,
carpeting.
that's
They
what
they do
we
have some
need.
NFL samples, but
I agree.
I'm
Let's do
sure
it.
they do.
I don't think we need to go that high. But the upper level one would be and as they talked about it, we didn't, as a district, we didn't get any of the equipment to maintain our current
Mhm.
field until what, I think that came
Yeah.
out with you,
3 years
Willie,
ago.
didn't it?
Yeah, when our past superintendent Dwight Richens came on, he was,
He's like, we need to get this done.
yeah,
about
he was an expert as a football coach in the fields. And the mistake they made, they spent all the money to put the field in, but not the equipment to maintain it.
And there's a chance we might be able to negotiate to get some of the equipment in with this, to be able to have that right from the get-go, the groomers and the things like that.
Yeah,
They
the field
mentioned-
wasn't maintained for several years after it was put in.
Don't we have the equipment? We have the sweeper and.
Yeah, that was
We
bought.
do, and I'll see if it's the same one that would come with it.
I think we bought, what, a sweeper and a
Yes, we have
groomer?
Different one?
I'm not sure. That's a good question, but if the field is a different type of
Yeah,
material,
maybe.
so
Maybe our maintenance equipment
artificial grasses that come up.
won't work on this new field.
Yeah, that'll be a good question to ask.
you mentioned the same company can do the track and field.
Mhm.
So if we do a bundle deal, can they,
I'm not
if we
sure.
do both at the same time?
I'm not sure if
Get a
they
discount.
can.
Yeah, what if we could get a discount as a bundle?
I'm being told that these estimates are very, very good discount levels, but
Oh.
at the same time, we'll have to look at different bids and see, and not always is the lowest bid. That's another thing that the board will have to look at. Is the lowest bid always the best thing to do with quality? And that's something where upon having a bond passed and have these types of projects listed, those are the types of things that we have to look at. And I know there are other projects that have come up. People say, I've heard we have a community group that's raising money to put scoreboards in for the softball and baseball field, and they're doing a great job of doing that. We've had some say, can we get a press box by the softball baseball field, and those things, again, just cost a lot more money. We could always add more to this, but I don't have people right now. They're not beating down the door until we commit to what we're gonna do, so they can come in and tell us how bad of an idea it is. But there might be some that will say, go get more and do more things. Like we had both sides of that on the last bond, where we heard both sides. We heard some say, don't ever ask for anything. And others say, you need to ask for a lot more than that. So I feel confident about these. This will stay true with, we're taking care of what we have. This is what we have. Like you can't, I don't know if this is a bad example, but we come into this job, we weren't here when these things were built, but we have a responsibility to make sure that they're there. And we would do the same thing if we entered into a family that already had a kid. We're still going to take care of that kid, even though it wasn't us that brought him into the world. So, it's one of those things, they're not going away. These facilities are still here.
That was going to be my question too. Could you talk to, if this bond doesn't pass, what do we do?
Yeah.
These things aren't gonna go away.
I don't know. I think what we will do is limp along the best we can. Try to.
And not
Here's
make
what
sense.
worries me is the main gym, the new gym, that is 25 plus years old. The roof. These are the things that need to be done on the roof. As of right now, we don't have leaks coming in our roof. But if we want to be able to have these leaky spots coming down our main gym to show people, that's a chance we would take if it doesn't pass. We would do the very best we can to maintain. This is an important bond to pass, and these are the things that are needing to be maintained right now in our district.
Well, as you said, it's not extravagant new buildings or new things. This is upkeep.
Yeah.
So
And some would say that, well, the football field is extravagant. I'm just going to play devil's advocate
Sure.
to that conversation. They'll come in and say it is. But going back again, this is what we inherited. This is
Here.
this is our here and now. This is our reality.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a better plan to come in and say, tear it all out, plant the grass and tell us how it's going to be better, I don't. It's not, it just isn't available right now. This is the path that we're going to be on, and hopefully, the top quality will give us 25 years instead of 15.
Do you think we have the same kind of scare that was present the last time we did this?
I hope not, because
As far as economy,
There's just the problem
COVID.
with, you can see inflation so easily. People are
Right.
starting to feel it with the gas and the groceries and then even buying a car, they can see
well,
that.
if that's the case, maybe it'd be a really good thing to sign a contract as soon as we pass the bond with the company to lock in the price for the next year.
Mhm.
Because inflation is going to go up,
Yeah, you've got to get this
but that doesn't mean that
going as soon as you can.
just because inflation goes up doesn't mean these things get fixed. I know you know that is like those things just won't go away.
Right. But I think we need to tell parents this is a matter of upkeep.
Yeah.
And safety. And these are things that we have to do as responsible citizens.
And this is probably about 400,000 more than what we were anticipating initially. When we were talking about the new projects with remodels combined, that was again before the construction boom went way up and the prices that the construction manager that we were working with they were quoting us at that time, they were accurate. We would have been able to do majority of these things with that remodel without that going on. However, things have changed, and so we've adjusted our plan. But then as we've adjusted our plan, you know, the track came out as one of the next major things, and that's where doesn't make sense to do the track without the field.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. And I think it's better long-term to do them both at the same time, even though it's a bigger price tag right now. So I'll be putting together a resolution for that
Next week.
for next week. But I think it has to come down to, this is our best estimate. And if prices come up, the district will just have to prioritize. And if that's the case, maybe we do the track and not the field. You know what I mean? It's just, we might be stuck with that option anyway, being forced into that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Now I have high school graduation.
High school graduation requirements.
Need my laptop.
So this is a discussion that we've been having with Mr. Guimar. My plan is to just discuss this again, just to make sure it's on everybody's mind. I'm going to pull up, and you do have it in front of you, the requirements by year at West Jefferson, where we are on a 6 period per day trimester. And that's where the change came over, where 2 years ago, we were on a 5 period trimester. And I know you guys have heard this, but just in case people are watching, we switched from a 6 period or 5 period trimester to a 6 period to align our junior high and high school, so they could share teachers and make sure that we could come into alignment with being overstaffed 2 years ago. And by offering one more class, that increases the number of offerings. The philosophy behind this is that we take the total number of classes that we offer for a student in the high school and want them to pass about 85% of those. That also gives a chance for those kids that choose to take release time to be able to have an opportunity to do that. This is the question that's been coming up, and Mr. Guimar is looking at asking a couple other districts that are doing this process right now. There's a pro and a con to what we offer, and I want to look at English and math today. And so if we look at the math requirements right now, we wanted to offer math all year round. As we talked to our math department, that would mean they would take an A, B, and C of algebra, whereas before in our previous, we would only offer an A and a B for 2 out of the 3 trimesters. The side that's a pro behind that is it gives our kids a lot more opportunity and our teachers a better chance to teach concepts more in depth over time. And we actually saw that, as well as I'm going to jump to the English. English is taught 2 trimesters their freshman year, but then their sophomore, junior, and senior year, it's all 3 trimesters. And we saw that with our sophomore English ISAT test scores were actually higher than the state average. And that was the class that also qualified us for an improvement status as junior high students. So you're looking at that, there's something to say about the consistency that they offer. One of the things that as we compare that is you look at the 2022 for next year, what would be offered for math is that we would ask them to have 9 credits. This would be a class that would be transitioning into the full amount, and 10 for English. The other thing that's different with the class of 2022 is that they would only have to do 2 fine arts and 2 practical arts, whereas the juniors next year going into senior class would be required to take another one. And so just because they have more opportunities to take more classes, that's where this transition and the philosophy comes in on it. But the question comes up with math. When you look at the Idaho requirements, I'm sorry, I jumped into the wrong one. The Idaho graduation requirements indicate that for mathematics, 6 credits are required. 2 for algebra, 2 for geometry, and 2 of the student's choice. And it mentions that 1 should be taken in their senior year. There's something here about their senior year in that. So comparing the state requirement of 6 credits to West Jefferson of 10, you're going to, okay, is that extensive? Is that something that you know, on a pro to that, or on a con, excuse me, if a student doesn't pass one of those classes, it makes it harder for remediation. It makes it harder for them. They either have to go to IDLA and try to take it, but IDLA courses are on the semester. We're on the trimester. It just, there's pros and cons with any type of system that we have. And that's the one thing that I want to reach out to our math department and also our English department and just get some feedback to say, what is a realistic expectation? And I'm curious on what, you know, if we don't know now, I don't want to take this to a vote next week. I think we can talk about this again next week and bring it to a vote in July. That will give us some time to reach out to teachers and hopefully hear back from some parents. But I'm not sure. You know, some of the things I've brainstormed with Mr. Guimar, if they're taking a math course and they've taken the A and the B, maybe we give them a chance to test out a C or something. Or if they've taken an A and a B and they failed a B, what do we do now to help them remediate? Those are the things that we don't really have the best plan in place yet for it. And I'm not sure what the other districts are doing that are offering the 6 credit or the 6 class trimesters. So I don't know, as I explained that to the board, do you have any initial thoughts with the comparison between a math credit of us, West Jefferson, requiring 10 compared to 6 from here? And because you can see why the math department would say, yeah, let's teach them all year long.
Well, yeah, if you don't have math your whole senior year and then you go into college, you're spending a lot of time in math lab.
Right. Right.
Or,
Same thing as a junior.
yeah, if you don't, then how does your ACT or SAT score shake out? If you haven't.
So I can see that. I can see how the
But for
the
kids
10 credits.
But for kids that aren't going to college, their path is the other way. What choices do they have for 10 credits?
You know, and I don't know if that's something where we look at them taking remedial classes and possibly having I don't know, I worry that if we came up with another path that said 10 credits for West Jefferson, and then you have an option to take the 6 credit one with a waiver from the school district or something, you know what I mean? Because they're still meeting the
but
state requirements. Is that what your question was? Or?
Well, yes, a little bit, but you've got a kid that's headed for technical school
Mhm.
and he doesn't want all that math.
Right.
Um,
That gives them another opportunity to take those technical classes.
Right, but he has to have 10 credits of math.
Yeah.
So how does he do that if he's not a mathematician
Mhm.
and he wants to take technical classes, but we've got him going to 10, he's got to get 10 credits. How does that look for him? It looks, he's doing the same thing as your college path, and don't most schools, high schools, don't they have a college path and a tech path?
Some may, I don't think, we don't right now. We don't have that set up where with the tech path, that would be, I believe the term is a pathway or a cluster. We don't have any pathways designed to help them get a
But isn't
degree.
it unrealistic to think that a kid that wants to go this way is going to have a hard time taking 10 math classes?
Yeah, it would be. That's why I'm bringing that up. That's why I'm bringing that concern up to the board, that this is something that we may want to look at and consider.
I mean, I'm all for them taking math, but have we got some classes that they could take that are like learning how to do a checkbook, well, not a checkbook, but on your computer
Accounting.
Mhm.
to,
They do have accounting classes and
well, but not just that, but
Life skills.
Life-
life
Life
skills, and
skills
I
and
can't
finance.
think of all the things
like
like
world. I'll have to double
like
check with
stock
that.
market, just some things that, I don't know, I'm just thinking if you've got a kid that doesn't like math and he's gotta take 10 credits, I can see them failing.
Mhm.
I think that's same to be said in English or whatever it is. Same thing. So, if they don't like English and you got all these credits too, it's the same kind of thing.
See, because I'm looking at this where it says you should take Algebra 1 for 2 credits, Geometry for 2 credits, student choice. Now, I'm assuming that from the state, this is based off of probably a semester. And they're probably thinking they're going to be taking it all year round.
I agree,
Anyway.
it should be all year, whatever they choose, but shouldn't there be some math electives that can take the place of, I mean, if they get those 6, what are you saying are the 6? Again,
For the,
algebra,
well, this is what the state has. They have algebra, and I do have that.
geometry, and then the student.
Algebra 1, 2 credits. And so if we were looking at that at our district, that would be Algebra 1 for 3 credits.
Okay, I agree with that,
Then Geometry
for 3.
for 3 credits.
Okay.
That's 6.
Okay, but
And
then
then Student Choice, 2 credits.
2, 4.
And
that's your
then-
6.
You know, and that would be something
And
where,
then what are they gonna do for 4 more credits if they're not math bound?
well, and that's what we have to decide.
Yeah.
That would make it 8. That would be something where we would
It's
have,
only 6, 7, it's
well,
3, 6,
but if West
7,
Jefferson
8.
looked at that.
Yeah, you're right.
So we do
Say-
have Mr. Davis who's here. I don't know, do you have something that to contribute to?
Help us
Madam
out.
Chair, is it okay
Yes.
if he addresses the board?
Absolutely.
Talk about the scheduling specifically for math, right? I mean, expanding a little bit there, but I would love to see what Bonneville does and just find out and see how they roll with that. I don't know if Scott talked to you about that at all.
I haven't. I know Mr. Guimar is looking at District 91. His kids go there. But if you wouldn't mind looking into that, that would be awesome.
Yep.
But I could see an argument where West Jefferson says, let's have 8 credits.
I could too.
8 instead of 10.
But I
8
say
instead of
you can-
10.
You can take 10 if you want to.
And if you
Mhm.
and then you say, and we could put in here and say, Algebra 1, you take all year.
Right.
Geometry, you take all year. If you want to take Algebra 2, which is the college career, you know, that's your path there.
Math, yeah.
You take that for 2 trimesters
Mhm.
because some kids might have to take that twice anyway if they're really wanting to push themselves. That's the one thing where, well, right now, it feels like with the 10 credits, we want 3 credits of algebra, 3 credits of geometry, and 3 credits of algebra 2.
Okay, so that's 9.
And it's 9, and I don't know if the other one comes in as a, you know, there has to be some wiggle room somewhere
Mhm.
with that, but that's something that I just wanted you guys to be thinking about this as well.
Well, I've been thinking about that and I see that what are they taking this year? 6? What was that
Oh, for our graduation for this year?
for this year? It's
8.
9, 8.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just about right.
Yeah. Yeah,
But those kids that want to take more math, and you're going to have kids that do not want to take more math once they get through with that first 2 sessions of algebra and geometry.
mhm.
And there'll be half maybe that'll want to go the other way.
You know, I think there'll be an argument saying that, well, we're not preparing kids for college if they haven't taken Algebra 2, that the goal is to push kids into Algebra 2.
Okay.
That might be something where that other argument. And there's probably a lot of truth to that, but there's also a lot of truth that the reason why they have remedial college math classes is because those are popular classes.
Yeah.
And it's not that those classes are poorly taught, but sometimes kids are at a different learning focus when they're in college than they are in high school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have a different motivation. I know that was
Yeah.
true for me with some of my courses, that the motivation during my advanced courses was a lot different than trying to figure out how a math class related to me as a 14-year-old
Right.
male thinking about where's the next football game, and
Yeah.
so I don't know. That's something that we're going to discuss. But of course, tonight there's not a suggestion, but I think one of the things that we need to look at is come to the question: is 10 credits too many to ask for math? Is that pigeonholing kids to potentially, as we're putting the bar so high
Right.
that now we're going to be caught up into a spot where we're trying to remediate so much just to hit that 10 credit
Yes.
limit
Yeah.
that we lose track of the focus of.
I'm
They're
afraid
not.
so.
Mhm.
And then that leads to the English side as well, where English would have 11 credit opportunities.
Well, I think there's a lot of good things that can come for both sides if they take their English 11 credits. Maybe it's the same as math, and you may be right about that, but I can see them taking English and the electives they have. Well, what would be your required? You'd get it every year,
So-
wouldn't you? So you'd have English every year.
Except for your freshman year.
You don't have English your freshman
The
year?
freshman year, you'd have 2 courses. And then you'd have 3, 3, and 3. So 9, 10, 11 with your freshmen. And
I'm not so worried about that, because I am a math.
I think there's something to say that if you're really going to be prepared for college, you have to know how to write papers.
Mhm.
Like math's going to be important for certain industry, certain professions, but being able to read and write and be able to persuade and have that. I'm looking at, even with all the courses that I had to become a superintendent, writing was key.
Yeah.
Writing was key, even with the math and such. That's where I'm okay with as I'm looking at this, there's still the issue of what do we do if a student doesn't pass one of those classes during the sophomore, junior, or senior year.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that our departments could come up with a remediation type of packet or something that's, of course, board approved or looked at with that.
So don't you have your same argument with your tech bound or tech pathway kid that now
Not
you're
so
shoving
much.
English down his throat?
I
Those
wonder, what are
classes
you
are
thinking
so-
on that?
Those classes are so much use to both of them.
The English class?
Yeah, I think they need it they need that writing, well, I don't know what it
No, if they're
requires.
going to technical, whether it's welding or whatever, they're not gonna use a lot.
I think,
They're gonna need more of their math
yeah, I agree.
and that kind of stuff, whether it's
You think they'll
whether
need
it's
algebra
mechanical.
too?
Yep,
I
I
don't know
agree
if
with,
we ever need.
I agree. I agree with Tyson. I went to technical school after high school.
Mhm.
Math is more important than writing skills.
But
You
English
have
gets
to
you
know
there.
math.
English, the writing skills get you the job.
And I agree. I think English is very important in
Mhm.
maybe more facets of our life, but I don't know that
But
math
math,
is any less.
Right,
And
so I could be wrong about that that you still need to have 10 credits of math for even these kids.
well,
I don't know if it's more credits though. I don't think it's having 10 credits for those kids. You're still going to have algebra. You're still going to have algebra 1 and algebra 2 all year round.
Mhm.
So, all right, I just got sent a lifeline. Hold on a second.
Somebody's giving you advice out there.
Just got to send a lifeline on that one. So let me pull up. I'm going to stop share for a second, Mrs. DeGraw.
Okay.
And I'm going to close that so people don't see me like peering into that. So we do have, we do have one person listening in from out there in space, but thank you, Mr. Guimar, for listening in on this. As is at a baseball game where he should be watching his family's baseball game.
And here he is.
And so did send this up. All right, I'm going to go back to share, and I'm going to try to make sense of this. But if not, this is where we're starting this discussion. And again, that's why this is meant to be a multiple discussion, multiple time issue. Let me go back to share screen. All right, so he said, here are the different routes the students would take depending on which 8th grade math class they're in. So if you have, and I guess this is the key, is if you're an 8th grader and you are in an Algebra 1 class, which we do have 8th graders that are taking that, those do count as high school credits. So they would get their 3 credits there. In 9th grade, they would get their 3 credits at 9th grade. If we only had 8 credits for those kids, they would only have to take 2 more classes between their 9th grade year and the year they graduate. So
Not a bad thing.
that's a good question.
Is there a good segment of the kids that are doing that, or just
There are about
5 to 10, or?
about there. I would say more than 10. I'd say 8 to 14.
Okay.
So you have about 8 to 14 out of our 50 kids that are taking Algebra 1. But some of those
But
kids,
those kids want to take calculus and physics too.
they might be able to do that. So here's a couple ones. So
So
here's another route. Here's
others
another
might
route
not
for
want to.
an 8th grader.
Yeah.
They would take Algebra 1, geometry, and then they'd have Algebra 2, and then calculus. That's a lot of math.
Yeah.
Or the last one, there's the Rainiacs right there.
Yeah. But if they want to be doctors or whatever, that's what the way they're going to go.
So he was just talking about how basically there is a pathway that they take with that. But part of it, I guess where you get the credits from, and this is where the 10 credits would come from, is if a student's not ready for Algebra or geometry until their 10th grade, they would take their 8th grade math, and then they would take the lower level integrated math. But that lower level integrated math does not count as, if I'm going back to it, it does not count.
As one of the 10 or
As-
11.
Yeah,
Where's math?
too many things. It doesn't count as one of the required subjects where you have Algebra 1 and geometry. And so that's probably answers our question with why we have 10 credits available, but
You said required, not available.
yeah. But that's where I'm not sure. We know we want to teach it all year round, and I don't want to start the conversation of, well, let's just go to semesters because that would fix this problem.
No,
The semesters work really well for our CTE classes and our electives, and those are really important. They're all really important. But by teaching these 2 core classes all year round, we've kind of found that balance. But if we're offering those classes, we have to track the credits.
So on that top level, if you've got an 8th grader that takes 8th grade math and then integrated math, which doesn't count towards those graduation requirements, there's no room for error.
On
After that.
this 8th grade integrated, no, there's not.
If you fail, you're in trouble.
But yeah,
9th grade
Does the
doesn't
integrated
count.
math not count towards the choice?
it does count towards the student choice.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to have 2 of those.
3.
Well, 3, but you only have,
2 required.
Oh,
that would just
yeah.
be your student choice. So when we look at our 10, 2 of those are a student choice, which means you have 8 credits of West Jefferson math that you still need to pass.
So there's a question. Do other school districts have your state graduation requirements? And then do they raise the bar? Do they have Bonneville requirements for graduation. Why have we, is it because we're on trimesters?
I think almost all school districts have above the state.
I also think it is because of how many we offer. Because if we went directly to the minimum requirements for graduation, which, what is it?
And can I make that argument and say, well, I meet the state requirements?
So the core instructions, 29, electives are 17, 46 credit minimum. What that would look like here where we're offering that, and how many credits are available, 61 by the 2014, you basically could graduate in your first 2 years
So why is ours so much higher?
because we're offering more. A couple of years ago, we did,
Because we want to meet the 85%.
yeah, we're trying to find that there's 85% of that. And I guess that's something that could be moved if it was invented by man, it can be changed by man, or woman.
Well, I wanted to give them the choices
Mhm.
to follow that path. But I wanted to have a path that these kids could follow that wasn't calculus. And so I see when I look at that other chart that they do have a path. But they're still doing algebra in their grade 12.
Unless this is where from the math department, and I can't speak for them, this works because they like teaching all year round because they can go more in depth with fewer things and get all the way through. Whereas if it's pushed back to 2 trimesters, now they feel like they're really busting to try to get there.
So in that first level,
Uh-huh.
those kids can,
Are you talking about this one right here?
yes, the first, when they get to grade 12, they only have to take one of those. They only have to take the top one to
Yeah.
get their 10, wouldn't they?
Well, they wouldn't really even need to do that. They could choose to take Algebra 2 if they were thinking, I want to be prepared for college algebra, or they could take the second path where they take algebra in 9th grade, geometry, algebra 2, or discrete, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. That again creates 11 classes, or I don't know.
That's right. There's no room for error.
There's no room.
And
That's the
with
thing is,
math, boy, there's a lot of error.
and we want to have room for error. We want them to be able to make mistakes and learn and grow. But that puts extra pressure now on teachers. I feel like, well, we've really got to get these, not that they want to flunk anybody, but
Right.
that's
There has to be accountability too.
the big question is how do we teach all year round, meet the state requirements, still have a percentage of how many classes we offer, because you could have a potential, if we're saying we just need to meet the state minimum credits, you're going to have kids go in here, well, I don't have to worry about this class till my junior year. Because, and that could be a nightmare as well, because it takes away some of the accountability.
It's never good to put off.
So I don't know. We could look back and say, well, let's just teach them 2 trimesters out of the 3, but that doesn't.
That's not what our purpose is to go all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We just need to something's going to come. We're going to be able to think outside the box. We're going to be able to make this work, because I think it's best for kids to have that opportunity year round, but maybe not year round every single year.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That's the part where,
But in that one semester, well, you only asking for 10. So that one last semester maybe is the one that's going to make up for whatever they've done wrong.
because really the second one right here, if they there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe they don't want to take algebra 2.
Right.
And that's where having 8 being required does give you 1 year of flexibility. And that's the part where, like,
That's-
even if you looked at the integrated math person here, and they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they mess up and they flunk one of these, they can come back and take it again their senior year
Yeah.
and still have a chance. Like this progression here, I guess that's the question is our goal to get everybody through Algebra 2?
I don't think so.
And that's, and I, if you ask our math department, maybe they would have a good argument for that.
Yeah,
But,
they probably,
or say,
well,
well,
and that's how it's set up, is for everybody to get through Algebra 2, and maybe maybe we ought to set that standard, but I'm looking at the reality of it.
mhm.
What do you think, knowing the way things have gone? I mean, the way things usually go in high schools.
If we had 8 credits available, that would allow people that if they really want to dive into the math, they'll take it. If that's what they want to do, they'll take it.
Excuse me.
And if
That's
we,
what I mean.
and so just because you have 8 credits available, you might have some kids at the end say, oh, I just don't want to take that my senior year. If that's what they really want to do, is it better to have a kid forced to go into a classroom where he's not really interested? And that creates issues for behavior, that creates issues for. Now, this is a good discussion. This is really good discussion on that.
Do we know, is there, out of each math class, is there a certain percentage that fail that class?
I'm not sure right now, but I know that with our current setup, there is a handful of kids that, as I've talked with Mr. Guimar, he's mentioned that is their biggest constraint with this, with the credit load that we have and the proposal that we have with that, is it doesn't allow for the remediation. But this going to 8 credits gives them the chance to go back and retake it. And that actually is better in the long run for the student, instead of just doing another class or excuse me, not another class, but like taking a test or trying to go back and take a study skills class and do that without having the teacher, and that could actually give more teeth to it, having fewer credits and say, this counts for more. If you don't get it, you will retake the entire class, not just go to a study skills class and redo a few assignments and then we send you on your way. Because there's that balance, as we've talked about, standards based and mastery based. We can't have standards based be, I'm not going to try right now because I know I can take it later. And some kids are taking that approach. And so that's where we need to have the standards approach to say, this is what we're teaching you. This is the target. This is how you hit it. This is how you could show that you know it. And that's what standards, that's the strength, I think, of standards based that really improves the instruction and the learning. But we're any system, and kids are no different than adults. We look for the path of least resistance on it. I'm not going to study right now because I can just take this test, get a bad grade because I know it's mastery based. You're giving me another chance to learn. And when I get it, you're going to give me that grade. It's a lot easier to work with kids that are wanting to work hard on that.
What is discrete math?
I believe the discrete math, I'm not 100, they've explained it to me before, but these 2 other options are either computer based or the discrete math is one that is computer adapted that can help prepare you for college as well.
Okay.
And so there's discussion on the effectiveness of it, but anytime you have an online type class, you get out what you put in.
True. Okay.
Do they call it senior math also?
Maybe that might be a term that they use.
If you were to take those 2 credits from math, where would you put them? Or would you just
Leave
lower the
them.
total?
Lower the total, maybe.
And I still think your kids that are going to college are going to take them, whether they're required or
They
not.
will.
They'll take those upper.
They will. Here's where I hope if parents are wanting their kids to take this is where the parents can get involved and say, no, take these classes. I want you to push yourself. we have parents on both sides of the spectrum. We have some parents that say, I want you to take these. And I have others that say, let's take a break during this time. I don't, don't worry about it. And that's up to them. That's because at the end of the day, it's their kid. And we're, as a school district, it's our job to offer wonderful things. It's our job to offer these
Right.
pathways.
Yes.
And we have one of the most experienced math teachers in the region, does an amazing job. That if you want your kids to be taking pre-calculus and going into these classes, you're going to want to go in down this route and take advantage of it. But is it the right thing to say, we're going to make all kids go through that route?
See,
That's where I'm wondering if this setup is already doing that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not getting any more lifelines from Mr. Guimar. Thanks for listening in, Mr. Guimar. We'll have to pull you in on another conversation on this, but I do, and while he's, and I'm going to say this, even though whether he's listening or not, Mr. Guimar's put a lot of time in putting together these formulas and creating a pathway out and putting together different course catalogs and other things like that. And all of this is to just try to have the best academic and educational experience for all these kids. That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
But if we're doing something that's creating a heartache for them, or we're setting them up for failure because they don't have time to redo it, I think that's something where we just have to look back and reflect as a school board to say, is this the right path? So, okay,
Give you something to think about.
it
Good
does.
discussion.
Great discussion.
Okay, well, our final item is just a reminder, our next board meeting will be the 17th, and we'll have our budget hearing. What's at 5, Mrs. DeGraw?
The budget hearing?
Budget, oh, yeah. Budget hearings at 5, so we'll do executive session at 4:30.
Okay.
So the first meeting at 5 will be our amended budget for the 2020-21 school year. And then 5:30 to 6 will be our proposed budget for the 21-22 school year.
Oh, so we're coming at 4:30.
4:30
Yes.
Oh,
from 17.
5 or
Or if we don't have a need for an executive, we could start right at 5. Which would be the same time.
when haven't we ever had anything?
I don't know. Sure, something will come up between now and then. So,
Well, before we open for a motion to adjourn,
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Hi, we're adjourned. Thank you.
I was just thinking, do they, when those kids